So in the last session, we started discussing about the formatted backups in Postgres, where we have seen like how can we take a backup using a tar format, or how can we take a backup using a custom format. So the next and the last formatted backup that we are going to discuss is the directory format. So what exactly mean by directory format is, so when you take the backup of a database using a directory format, so a directory will be created for each object in the Postgres database. Okay, so let's say you have two tables, two different directories will be created. And one more point that you need to remember here is you can take a backups using parallel option. So what else? So let's say how can you make it parallel, right? So you need to pass a parameter called -j, and if you give like three parallel process will be started to take the backup of your whatever the database that you have specified. So what is the advantage with the directory format? The advantage with the directory format is you can take the backup in a parallel mode. And one more point that you need to understand here is, so hyphen capital F is refers to a format, and if you mention D, then it refers to a directory format. Okay, so and one more point is, if you want to take a backup of any database or schema or table using a directory format, whatever the location that you want, wherever the location that you want to keep your backup file, that location should be of empty. It should not contain anything. If anything is there, then directory format backup will throw an error stating there is a file that already exists. So the points that you need to remember, so in Postgres we have a format called directory format, where we have an option to take the backups in a parallel mode. If you want to take the backups in a parallel mode, you need to pass a parameter called -j. So and the number of processes that you want to start, and wherever you want to keep the backup, and if the backup is of type directory format, that location should be of empty. It should not contain any files or directories. Okay, it should not contain any files or directories. Okay, and so now let's try to take the backup. Okay, so now my requirement is I wanted to take the backup of a EDW database from the target. So now let me, so this is the location where I want to keep the backup files. Okay, now pg underscore dump -u postgres -h is the IP address of my source machine, which is 192.168.29.125 -p5432, and -d edw capital F is a format type directory, -v is for verbose, and -j I'm passing two parallel process, and -f /u02 pg backups. And what is the backup file name? What is the backup file name? edw underscore. There is no need to mention the backup file name, because as I said, it is going to create the backups in the form of directories. Now it will throw an error stating, what is the error? Could not create a directory, pg u02 pg base backups file exists, which means, as I said, when you are trying to take a backup using a directory format, that location should be of empty. Now let me remove the backup files. Okay, now I have removed the backup files. Now see, the backup has been taken. If you see, there are a lot of directories that got created, right? This is how you can take the backup using a directory format. So now what I'm trying to do, right? I'm trying to, let me log into the edw. So what are the database that I have? SAP database. Let me log into the SAP database. In the SAP database, I'm going to check what are the tables that are available in the edw underscore app schema. How can we check the list of tables that are available in the edw underscore app schema? /dt edw underscore app dot star. So we'll give you the list of schemas. Now what I'm trying to do, right? I'm trying to drop the table from the target. Drop table edw underscore app dot test. Just I'm dropping the table. So if you do /dt edw underscore app dot star, so see, there is no table with the name, what? There is no table with the name test. Okay, right? So now the next point that we need to do is, so we have a directory format backup, right? So we have a directory format backup. From this, I'll try to restore a table. So pg underscore dump hyphen u postgres hyphen h. So where I'm going to restore, I'm going to restore to a target. And is it a remote connection or local connection? It is a local connection because we are sitting on the same server on which your database is running. So which is like 127.0.0.1 hyphen p 5432 and hyphen d sap, and so hyphen n edw underscore app and hyphen t test. So directly I am not trying to restore data plus ddl, but I am trying to restore only data, so only ddl. So I am using hyphen s, and just I'm hyphen v is for verbose, and let me pass the backup location. So when you pass this, first what it will do, it will try to restore test table ddl only. Test table ddl only. So is it a pg dump or pg restore? It is a pg restore. See, what is the error? The table has been created, but what is the error? The error is the owner of the table is Hari on the source side, but the Hari user is not available on the target side. That is the reason why it throws an error. That's okay. Now let me log in and check whether the table has been created or not. So /dt edw underscore app dot star select star from edw underscore app dot star. Sorry, select star from edw underscore app dot test. Okay. Now the next thing, so far what I have done, I have restored only ddl. Now I am trying to restore data. See, the data has been processed. Now let me check. See, the data also, this is how, see what. So what you need to remember here is, whatever the statements or whatever the options that we are passing while taking the backup or restoring, that is one and the same for all the formatted backups or plain backups. But why I had to go for plain backups in detail was, so in plain backups you have a feasibility of opening the backup file and read the contents of the backup file. That is the reason why I took more time to explain about the plain backups in Postgres. So with this we have completed the pg dump concept. Okay, so to repeat that, so pg dump is a utility which is used to take the backup of a logical objects. When I say a logical object, it can be a table, it can be like schema, or it can be like a database. And one more point that you need to remember is, pg dump is not having the capability of taking a particular procedure or function. If someone asks you to take a backup of a particular procedure or function, we don't have such option available to take the backup of a procedure or function. And so pg dump can take the backups in both plain format as well as formatted backups. Okay, so when you try to take a backup using pg dump without specifying any option, okay, then by default pg dump takes the backups in a plain format. These points are very important. Okay, by default pg dump takes the backups in a plain format. So what is the advantage with the plain format is, when you take the backup in a plain format, you can open the backup file and read the contents of a backup file. Okay, and PSQL is a utility which is used to restore when you take the backups in a plain format. So what is the disadvantage with the plain format? When you have a full database backup in a plain format, you cannot restore a particular object from the full database backup. Okay, so coming to the formatted backups, right? So we have three types of formatted backups. One is a tar format, custom format, and directory format. Okay, so hyphen capital F along with pg dump specifies the format. If you pass hyphen t, hyphen capital F small t, then it is a tar format. Hyphen capital F small d, that is a directory format. Hyphen capital F, then small C, then it is a custom format. And in the directory format, you have the feasibility of taking the backups in a parallel manner, but the location where you want to keep the backup file, that location should be of empty. So hyphen D is used to take the backup of a database, hyphen small n is used to take the backup of a schema, hyphen small t is used to take the backup of a table, hyphen capital T is used to exclude a table, hyphen like small capital N is used to exclude a particular schema, hyphen small s to take the backup of a structures or DDL, hyphen small a is used to take the backup of a data only, hyphen small c is used to dump the cleaning up of object commands, and hyphen capital O is used to it instructs the pg dump to do not dump ownership commands, hyphen small x do not dump privileges, and hyphen capital C dumps the statements for creating a database and connecting to the database. This is the options that we have seen from last 4 classes. The next and last concept of the logical backups in Postgres is pg_dump all. So if you remember, we have already seen the fundamental differences between pg_dump and pg_dump. This is one of the most asked interview question. Okay, so what is the difference between pg_dump and pg_dump? This we have already discussed. So the next topic that we are going to discuss is pg_dump. So pg_dump doesn't have the capability to take the backups in a formatted way. Okay, using pg_dump, you can take the backups only in which format? You can take the backups only in plain format. pg_dump will take the backups only in plain format. And one more thing, so pg_dump can take backup of all databases at a time. It can take backup of all databases at a time. pg_dump cannot take a backup of a particular database. If you want to take the backup of a particular database using pg_dump, you cannot take the backup of a particular database. And one more thing, as you are going to take the backup in a plain format, PSQL is a utility which is used to restore the backups. And do we really use pg_dump to take the backup of all database at a time? We don't use, because pg_dump is going to take the backups in a plain format. When you take the backups in a plain format, the size of the backup file would be more. And one more disadvantage is, when you have a full database backup file, we cannot restore a particular object. So but where do we use this pg_dump? We will use this pg_dump to take the backup of a global objects. Okay, the main use of pg_dump is to take the backup of a global objects. What exactly mean by global objects? In Postgres, users and table spaces are the global objects. Users comma table spaces. Okay, users and table spaces are the global objects. So the exclusive use of the pg_dump is to take the backup of a global objects. Okay, so that's where we will use pg_dump. Okay, so what is the purpose of pg_dump? pg_dump is used to take the backup of a global objects. Now what I'll do, that I'll show you a couple of examples with the pg_dump. It is pretty easy and pretty straightforward topic. Okay, so now pg_dump, okay, pg_dump -u Postgres -h192.168.29.125 -p542. No need to mention any database name here. And -f /u02 pgbackups all.sql. and let me pass -v verbose as well. See, it is taking the backup of all the databases. It will take backup of whatever the databases that are there. It will take the backup of all databases. Can we take a backup of a specific database? No, we cannot take. Let me open the backup file. If I open the backup file, see first what it is trying to take. It is trying to take the backup of all the users, then it is trying to take the backup of all the table spaces, then it is trying to take the backup of template 1, then it is trying to take the backup of a CRDS, then it is trying to take the backup of a demo database. Likewise, it is going to take the backup of all the databases that are available in the Postgres cluster. But what is our requirement? The main use of pg underscore dumpal is to take the backup of only global objects. So my requirement is I wanted to take the backup of only global objects. So how can I take is, so for that you have an option called -g. -g or hyphen global hyphen only. So now let me do this. So pg underscore dumpal -u postgres -h 192.168.29.125 -p 5432 -g and -v's for verbose -f/u02 pg backups global.sql. Okay, this is done. Now let me open the backup file. So first, globals means it will take the backup of users, then it will try to take the backup of table spaces as well. So now, you don't want to take the backup of a table space, you want to take only backup of users. You want to take the backup of only users. How can you take? Then you need to pass an option called hyphen roles hyphen only. So pg underscore -125 hyphen roles hyphen only -p 5432 and -v's for verbose and -f/u02 pg backups and users.sql. then a file name can be anything. Okay, now let me open users.sql. so only users, okay, only users got backed up. So now my requirement is I don't want to take the backup of users, I want to take the backup of only table spaces. Then the option that you need to pass is -small t or hyphen table space hyphen only. So this is the option that you need to pass. Okay, now that is the option that you need to pass. Now how can we take? So pg underscore dumpal -u postgres -h 192.168.29.125. then you need to pass -t tablespace.sql. now let me open the tablespaces.sql. if you see that, see, it has taken the backup of only what? Table spaces. So that's how we will be using pg underscore dumpal. In real time also, we do not use pg underscore dumpal to take the backup of all databases or to take the backup of a particular all databases, because it is going to create the backup file in a plain format. So the main purpose of this pg underscore dumpal is to take the backups in backup of a global object such as users and table spaces. Okay, so any doubts so far? Any doubts or anything that you want to? No, I take it as a no. Now the next topic that we are going to discuss in the backups and recovery is physical backups in Postgres. So what is the logical backups and what is the physical backups is, when you take the backup of a logical objects, it is going to take the we can take the backup of a particular database, or we can take a backup of a particular schema, or we can take a backup of a particular table. But what exactly mean by physical backups are, so if you are from the Oracle background, so this physical backup is nothing but taking the backup of a, I mean, it is equal to Arman backup in Oracle, where using physical backups we are going to take the backup of a entire Postgres cluster using physical back. So how can we take the backup in how can we take the physical backups is, we have a utility called pg underscore base backup. So we have a utility called pg underscore base backup. So pg underscore base backup is a utility which is used to take the backup of a physical objects. When I say physical objects, using pg underscore base backup, you cannot take a backup of a particular database, or you cannot take a backup of a particular table, but it will take the backup of entire cluster, which means entire data directory. We can take the backup of entire cluster. It is not possible to take the backup of a particular things in using pg underscore base backup. So again, so pg underscore base backup, okay, pg underscore base backup can take the backups in two formats. One is in plain format, second one is in directory format, sorry, formatted backups. So do we have any specific utility for restoring? No, actually. So we have to manually restore, I mean to say, okay, we need to perform the restore manually. So when you have a physical pg based backup, then you can create a brand new cluster which is like a clone, and this pg underscore base backup is a utility which we will use for the initial sync up, okay, for performing or for configuring the streaming replication in Postgres. Okay, if you want to configure the streaming replication in Postgres, pg underscore base backup is a utility which is used to perform the initial sync up, okay, which is used for performing the initial sync up. Now what I'm trying to do, right, observe it very carefully. The black screen is I have a server, and the red color screen is I have a target database. Now what I'm trying to do, I am trying to drop the entire database. I am trying to drop the entire cluster. How can you stop? How can you drop? Means simply I will go to the data directory and I will do what? I will go to the data directory and simply I will remove all the files so that my cluster will be gone. So for that, first let me stop the cluster. pgctl-d /u02 Postgres data directory. Stop. So I have stopped the cluster. Now let me go to the data directory. u02 Postgres data directory ls rm-rf star. So I have removed the entire cluster. So only I have what now? I have only binaries now in the data directory which is empty. So I have only binaries now. Now how can I take the backup, pg base backup? So for that, so pg underscore base backup -u Postgres. Now I am going to take the backup of base backup of my source system, which is like -h 192.168.29.125 -p5432, and -D is the location where you want to keep your files. Okay, I wanted to keep the files in u02 Postgres data directory location only. So what pg base backup will do, right? Pg base backup will take the backup of a data directory from the source and it will keep it in the u02 Postgres data directory location, and -v is for verbose, and enter. Then it will throw in error. Why it will throw in error, right? So if you remember during the host based authentication concept, so we have discussed that pg underscore base backup works on a replication protocol. Okay, so if a user is trying to establish a connection to the source, then that user must be whitelisted in the host based authentication file with a replication protocol. Let me do that. So let me go to the source side. Now let me go to the pg underscore hb. What is the pg underscore hb.conf location? The pg underscore hb.conf is located under the data directory of the Postgres system. So pg underscore hba.conf. Okay, so now the through which user we are trying to take the backup, Postgres user. So it is a remote connection. So in place of database you need to keep what? Replication. So in case of user you need to keep Postgres. So what is the IP address? 192.168.29.130. This is very important. So if you say like what are the prerequisites for taking the PG based backup, the first prerequisite that you need to tell is whomever the user you are trying to use to take the PG based backup, that user must be configured in the pg_hba.conf file with the replication protocol, because pg_base backup works on replication protocol. So now we'll make it password. Okay, so whenever you do any changes, what you need to do, you need to go for the reloading of the cluster. Okay, now see what happened, it has taken the backup, it is done. See, so okay, sorry, permission denied. Okay, so what happens, right? So it is trying to, what it will do in the source side. If you see, we have table spaces as well. How can we check the list of table spaces that are available in the Postgres cluster /db? So these are the locations where we have the table spaces. But here also, when you take the advantage with the plain format is, when you take the plain format backup, that restore will be automated and it will try to create the table space locations automatically. But when it is trying to create a table space locations, it throws an error stating permission denied. Okay, permission denied. So now let me do this mkdir. So here for this location the permissions are denied. So what I'm going to do, right, I'm going to change the permission. So I have changed the permissions. Yeah, I have changed the permissions now. Now let me reinitiate the backup. See now it is trying to take the backup. When I say backup, it will be stored automatically to the directory location. Okay, it will be stored automatically into the data directory location. So now let me go to the Postgres. If you see here, all the table space, okay, go to table spaces as well. Everything got created, right? Everything got created. Now let me go to the data directory u02 Postgres data directory ls. See, now all got copied. Simply what you can do, you can start your cluster pgctl-d/u02 Postgres data directory start. See, your server has been started. It is a exact replica of your what? Exact replica of your source database. Okay, the advantage with the plain format is no need to create the table space locations manually. Those will be created automatically by the PG based backup. Okay, never and ever try to take the PG based backup in a plain format in the same source system, because if you try to create the PG based backup in a plain format on the same source machine, then it will again attempt to create this location, but this location is already there and it might throw an error stating table already exists, or locations already exist, or location is not empty, kind of errors you will get. So, and one more thing that you need to remember is, what are the options that I have passed? So now again let me stop the cluster. I have stopped the cluster, and now let me perform some cleanup now. Okay, again I am dropping all the files. Now let me go to the one more location ls rm-rf table space also I have removed. Now what I'm trying to do, right, I'll try to show you a couple more examples of PG based backup. So PG based backup, if you want to check the progress, if you want to print the progress of your PG based backup operation, then you need to pass -P. -P is used to print the progress of a PG based backup. Now see, if you see here, progress is getting printed here. Okay, now everything got copied, 100% completed. And one more thing that I wanted to show you is, let me drop table again, this one, data directory ls. rm-rf star. Okay, and one more thing is I wanted to show you a fetch method. So this is also very important interview question. What does it mean by a fetch method in pg based backup? So fetch method is represented using hyphen small x. There are two options are there. One is yes and second one is f. Okay, so yes means it is a stream and second one is it is a fetch. What does it mean by stream, right? So and this is a default one. So if you do not specify anything, by default files will be streamed. What exactly mean by this fetch method is, this fetch method talks about how the val files needs to be copied from source to the target. Okay, so what fetch method exactly talks about? Fetch method exactly talks about how the val files are going to get copied. Okay, how the val files are going to get copied from source to the target. So by default it is a stream method, which means a file will be copied parallelly along with your backup, which means one connection will try to take the backup and there will be another parallel connection which is going to copy the backup file, copy the val files from source to the target parallelly, and the next method is a fetch method. What fetch method talks about, right? So what fetch type talks about, right? Fetch type talks about once the backup is done, okay, val files will be copied. Okay, val files will be copied in a separate connection. Okay, so it is not going to do a parallel copy. So first it will let the pg base backup to get completed. Once that is done, it is going to fetch the val files. Now these things we will observe it very carefully. Okay, so now let me remove these table spaces as well. ls cd dot rm-rf. Okay, now the next thing, so let me try to take the backup. So as I said, pg based backup by default it is a fetch method only. So as I said, two connections will be there to what one connection is for the backup and second connection is for the backing up of a val files. Now I'll try to show you these things by, let me adjust these settings. So let me execute this array. So ps-eaf, 1 minute, ps-eaf grep postgres. As the database size is very low, so it is getting completed in a faster manner. So rm-rf table spaces. Let me remove data directory as well. Okay, now again let me take the backup. If you see, there are two connections here. I'll show you. So there are two connections. One is for what? One is for taking the pg based backup, and second, see, if you see the IP addresses, right? If you see the IP addresses, it is pointing to 132, which is a slave IP. So one connection is taking the pg based backup and second connection is streaming the val files. Okay, there are two connections in the stream method. So that one connection will take the backup and the next connection will try to take the val files. Okay, so and the default behavior is a stream method only. What is the next method? The next method is fetch method. The next method is what? Fetch method. Let me show you the fetch method. When you take the backup in a fetch method, first tables will be backups will be copied, then val files will be streamed. Okay, now again let me try to take the pg based backup. While taking the backup, I am explicitly going to pass -xf. Sorry, 1 minute. What is this fetch method? So first what it is trying to do, it is trying to take the backup of only, it is trying to take the backup. Then what it is trying to do, it is trying to take the backup of a val files there. So only one connection will be there at a time. Once the backups is done, then only it is going to take the backup of what? It is going to take the backup of val files. Now let me try to start your Postgres cluster. See, the cluster has been started. So this is how you can take the backups in pg_base backup in a plain format. In the next class, so we are going to see how can we take the backups in a formatted way. And when you take the backup in a formatted way, you need to use some different approach altogether to restore it, that we are going to see. And we are also going to see what is your we are also going to check the answer for the one of the interview question, what is your backup strategy in your organization. That also we are going to check. By tomorrow we will be completing the PG based backup. From Thursday onwards we are going to start a replication class. Okay, so that's it for today, and we'll connect tomorrow again. Thank you. Any doubts so far? If not, just we'll wind up for today and we'll connect tomorrow.